All right, good morning, everyone. It is 7:16 a.m. on May 26th, Pacific Standard Time. This is Quake weather. We have some live forecasting to do, so let's get right into it. Once again, I have to give you the preemptive epilepsy seizure warning for the videos that we generate on Solar Dynamics Observatory. They flash like this. Not much we could do about it. So let's get into it. So we're looking at this coronal hole. Started turning into face Earth yesterday. We should be feeling the stronger effects of it later today, probably tomorrow, depending on when the forces from this area of it start hitting Earth and interacting with Earth's interplanetary magnetic fields. And then we have this large coronal hole, which I believe is, just an extension of that one that's turning into faces as well. So let's go to the PFSS model and see what we're looking at. So we are looking at a negative electromagnetic polarity, which means we're getting the stronger forces compared to the green here. So we have the red, and this is an extension of the northern solar polar field. If you just look at this in the 211 angstroms of light, you might think that this is part of the southern solar polar field, but that is why we look at the model that they create over here, so we could look at both the electromagnetic polarity that it is and also which solar polar field is actually extending down into the transequatorial area of the sun facing the Earth. Excuse me. So now that we know that, let's look at that again. Pretty dark. So this earthquake watch period will probably last throughout the weekdays all the way until Friday. Probably, it's hard to say when it's going to peak, but I would give it Wednesday-ish, probably going to peak right in the middle of the week. Somewhere around that time, hard to say, but that's a pretty good approximation. So let's start looking into the locations here. Let's start with the MSLP, the mean sea level pressure wind map here we have on earth.noschool.net. Large area up there. Nothing too powerful here in California, but we're going to come back to California. We do have some other pre-seismic signals there. Nothing too major here just yet. That's quite large right there. Let's go over here. Yeah, a little bit in this area. I'd say maybe we'll come back to this one a little bit once we look at the outgoing long wave radiation. And then we have this up here, which is so this is Japan right here. So this would be this low pressure cell right here. That one definitely catches my eye. So it's like these, I don't know if these are technically the Japanese islands or this is part of Russia right here. So this is like up in an area right here. This is a sparsely populated area. So hopefully that low pressure still stays up there. Let's look at the OLR anomaly, and let's go down to the daily. So let's look at this, expand it. What are we looking at? Wow, look at that, India. So that, geez. Okay, yeah, so these two areas are pretty big. It's not often we see an OLR anomaly that large and that dark of red. That is it's pretty impressive. I would, 100% put this area on alert right here. This is like the Tonga, Fiji region. So I would put that area. So far as of today, this could all change in a couple days. We'll have more updates as they come. But as of now, this area definitely on high alert. When we look over here, this is the western coast of India. This is rather large too. So I would probably put India on a watch period as well. And then the usual suspects over here, I mean, maybe a little bit of Indonesia. Haven't seen a lot of too much pressure release there, but we'll get to that in a second because I can't confirm that yet. But I would also put the Philippines right here because they're getting into the red area and they do get shaking, especially when we see like this magnetic mixing right here. So we have the positive polarity OLR anomaly along with a negative one right there. So if we go back to the MSLP, the low pressure cell, let's see what this is looking like. It's not too dark of a color, but if we look up here in the Philippines, like we could see these forces kind of gathering in the area, hovering right there, hovering right here, kind of just sitting still right here. So, and this is all low-ish pressure cell, but it's all being fed into from all this high pressure cell coming all in from the Pacific Ocean and down to here. So look at that area. This is all one massive low pressure cell. This is that area of India we looked at on the OLR anomaly map. And since we do see these forces coming in from here, meeting these forces right here in that area, I would put that area of Western India on alert as well. So let's back up here. Okay, not much else. Let's look at Hawaii. I think they had a volcano very like in the last 24 hours in Hawaii. Not much low pressure cell activity there, but let's check out their OLR anomaly. And yeah, I mean that's if this this could have been over here. Actually, no, this is the last 24 hours. So this is from the wow, that's the 24th. Okay, geez, I wish this was updated more often. So hard to say looking at any of this. I don't, this could all be null and void now, because until we get some more recent data, it's from the 24th, today's the 26th. Looks like they're 2 days behind instead of the, you know, this is a, since this is a 24-hour period chart that we're looking at here, you know, I would expect to see the 25th, but it's the 26th. So maybe it just hasn't been updated yet. It is Memorial Day weekend, so, and this is an American thing. So hopefully, you know, we'll do another live stream tomorrow to get more updated stuff on location. Very unfortunate. This is all current, so reliable. Let's go on to what has actually happened. So let me see. The largest one we had in the last 24 hours was over here in Chile. And we do see this cluster of events right here. So this is concerning. We see all these 4 magnitudes at a very at a depth right here. Let's see. Let's yeah, these are all today except for that one. Let's, you know what? Let's go sort by newest. And so yeah, it looks like we had a large one. These could just be aftershocks of this one right here. However, looking at the depth right here, and also if you look at the plate boundary, so just real quick, like this plate right here is going underneath this plate right here. See, this red line is the plate boundary. These are, you know, those big tectonic plates you hear about. So this plate right here, they overlap each other. So how they overlap matters, and just, and it's the same thing for the U.S. West Coast. The plate right here goes under this one. So what that means is the subduction zone, which is like the area in between plates that are overlapping, it's shallower here and it gets deeper as it comes over here to the east, over to the right. Because again, this plate is going underneath this one. This plate rests on top of this one, but it's kind of like a diagonal line, if you will. So over here, when we see events happening here, they'll be shallower. They'll be like, so if we go to like this, this is the deepest one right here. See how it's furthest over to the right? That's because the subduction zone is deeper down here, because it's where this plate is resting underneath this plate is deeper. And as you go to the left, they get shallower. So you'll see that one's 114 kilometers deep, 101 kilometers deep. It kind of curves right here, so it's probably a little bit different for listen. But yeah, okay, so look, the one that's the furthest left is 105 kilometers deep. If you go to the one over here, that's the furthest right, that's 281 kilometers deep. So this is kind of like an interesting way, if you could picture visualizing how the subduction zone comes down at an angle from the plate boundary right here and goes deeper and deeper as it goes to the right. Anyways, just a cool little fact. But I would put this area on alert. This is going to be more, because again, this OLR anomaly data that we looked at, this is from the 24th. Not very reliable. There are some things we could maybe derive from this, but since we're dealing in probability and statistics, there's too much variability and time passing by for this to be very dependable. So we're going to look at earthquake action. And look, when we see, you know, what is this, 6, you know, half a dozen quakes within a day at that depth above 4 magnitude, that is commonly, not always, but it is common that this is a precursor to a larger event. So I would keep an eye on this area. So this is like Chile, Peru, Bolivia area right here. I think this one is actually, oh, that's Bolivia. Well, I mean, that looks like Peru. Anyways, So that area I would put on alert just because of pre-seismic signals. Now, I wanted to bring everybody's attention back here because this, if for those of us in the U.S. Southwest, over here in California, this cluster right here, we often see this. Petrolia is, the most. You'll see this name very often pop up. We do get clusters of events right here that could be pre-seismic signals to a larger event. And when we say larger event, we mean 6 magnitude or higher. But oftentimes you'll see a cluster of events here that doesn't lead to a larger quake. Again, I would love to see more updated OLR anomaly data because we do have some magnetic mixing right there. So we have positive polarity emanating upward with negative polarity emanating upward, and this is more inland. But again, these things move around, they change size, they change shape, and they change location too. So again, this is not very dependable, unfortunately. We're going to have to do another live stream tomorrow when we hopefully get some updated data and the people at NOAA are back from their barbecues. So, but I would, put this area on somewhat of a watch. I wouldn't put it on super high risk because again, we do get clusters of events here that don't end up leading to larger events. So, but I'd be remiss if I didn't add that to the watch list. So far we got Northern California and then all these blot echoes right here. I would definitely put this area on alert as well. This, the western coast of South America. So let's zoom out a little bit here and see what else we got. Not seeing any pressure being released from that area we looked at Western India. But again, that OLR anomaly data, very unfortunate. It's 2 days old and not dependable. So, this whole area right here is all the wind pressure right here is all low pressure in this massive area of the world. If just to go, give you an idea, like the entire country of India is basically a low pressure cell right now. And then all the way here, this is Pakistan up here in Tajikistan, and then over here in Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, it's not very dependable. We do see this big guy up here. Not too far from Iceland. Let's go look at this area just real quick. So, yeah, nothing. We haven't seen any pre-seismic signals yet, as far as small earthquakes, I should say. But if we go over here, again, this is old data. I don't think looking at this is going to help anybody. But if we look at that massive low pressure cell right there, and Iceland is known for volcanoes, and also if you look, there's a plate boundary. They're sitting out right on top of a plate boundary. So I would put Iceland on a bit of a watch period as well. Again, we're gonna have to do another live stream tomorrow when the outgoing long wave radiation data gets updated, as it's 2 days old. And again, extremely unfortunate. That's a big part of location forecasting we do here. So let's see what else we got here. Sometimes we see quakes here. It's this in this tropical area right here. Sometimes we'll see clusters, and they actually most oftentimes we get big clusters of these sizes of earthquakes. And in other areas of in the world, when you see stuff like this, there's a stronger chance that you'll see a large quake. But here in this area, I mean, it does happen. But I would say, just in my experience doing this for over a decade, I'd say it's 80. Maybe 90% of the time we see clusters of events, they don't lead to larger 6 magnitude events of any concern. So it's harder to actually call that. This area right here is enough to raise an eyebrow for sure. The plate boundary area up here, and by that extension, the U.S. West Coast, it's harder to determine what is a blot echo and what is not, because that subduction zone we were talking about earlier, like in South America, like if you look at how deep that is 280 kilometers. Sometimes this goes like 300 kilometers. When we come up here to the U.S. West Coast and even down here, the subduction zone is much shallower. So if we don't know that is the final event, or if these are like deeper events that are going to eventually emanate upward and lead to larger events, but also events that are, you could feel them more the more shallow they are. So if there's a 5 magnitude quake that's 300 kilometers deep, you'll probably feel it. You know what I mean? But if that 5 magnitude quake is 10 kilometers or less deep and it's closer to the surface, it's going to likely do some damage, and you'll almost 100% chance that you'll feel it, just to give you an idea. So when we look at this cluster of events right here in Petrolia, this is all this is all very shallow. Like, how did this happen? How did this happen, like, right on the surface? Don't know. Good question. These are all relative, like, really shallow. So it's hard to say. And if we're going by the newest first, we had this 4.4, and then they're smaller, but then they're getting a little bit bigger again. Again, keep an eye on this area right here. I wouldn't put them on the highest alert because, again, Petrolia is a very, popular name in the earthquakes that occur in California, particularly up here in this area, and they don't always lead to larger events. Let's see. So we did, what do we have here? We got Iceland, west coast of South America, which is like Chile, Bolivia, Peru region. And then Hawaii had a volcano. Okay, I don't know why this is happening. So, all right, let's look over here. I believe we had, if you just give me a few minutes here to get this started up. We're going to, I believe we had a planetary alignment. That was a note at the end of the month here. So we can hide the moons, hide the dwarf planets, we can hide the stars. Yeah, we don't need that. Don't care about that or that. Get rid of that too. Leave the past, and that's okay. So what were we looking at here? Oh, there it is right there. So Earth, Sun, and Mercury coming into alignment, and it actually looks so, yeah, this is definitely going to contribute to the watch period because, as I mentioned, we're looking at, when we go back and look at this coronal hole, it takes about, once it's right, like just picture a vertical line right here. Once a coronal hole hits here, it takes about 2 to 3 days from the forces of the coronal hole to reach Earth because the sun is so far away from Earth. So we're starting to feel the effects of this coronal hole already. I think maybe just a tiny bit, if anything at all, actually. I think the real brunt of the period starts tomorrow, and I would actually change my, the peak of this watch period is going to be towards the end of the week. So we're a bit early, I think, in contradiction to what I said at the beginning of the video. The larger part of this coronal hole is right there. It's right here. It's going to be another day and a half before it gets to right here, and then it's going to be about 3 days from there when we start feeling the peak of it. So about 4.5 days. Again, this is going to, so this coronal hole, this earthquake watch period is going to peak at the end of the week. Thursday, Friday-ish. It doesn't mean we're not going to see any increased seismic activity between now and then. It's going to ramp up. That's how these things go. But the peak of the forces that will be interacting with Earth's IMFs will be at the end of the week. So that's that. And again, this strong low pressure cell right here, it's starting to turn red. Iceland is on a plate boundary, and they do have volcanic activity. And I know that Hawaii erupted recently, or I thought it did. I thought I saw something on the news about Hawaii erupting. I'll have to go look at that. But if we go back here, so on May 30th, which I believe will be a Friday, right at the end of the week, that's when we're going to have the Earth, Sun, Mercury planetary alignment. So we're going to have two major things at play here. We're going to have this Earth, Sun, Mercury alignment. Again, this is going to be May 30th, which is Friday. And then towards the end of the week is when we're going to be peaking on this coronal hole. We'll do some more live streams later on in the week so we can, again, not trying to sound like a broken record here, but when we get updated data from here, because this is 2 days old, and we'll get a fresh look at where all the low pressure cells are to figure out, try to determine where the locations of a likely major event. And again, this alignment is not going to occur until May 30th. I think that's about it. Some earthquakes here. That's not really close to where we saw this low pressure cell up here. So, I mean, it's, nah, that's not. Yeah, 50-50. So we're always seeing little stuff in Alaska right here, and they're pretty much always in a low pressure cell. So nothing new there. Zoom out a little bit. Again, Philippines, I would put them like on a medium watch for now. But again, we're going to have to do another live stream when we have more up-to-date information to go off of. And again, we're not really feeling the smallest part of this coronal hole yet. And I don't think we're not really going to be feeling the stronger parts of this coronal hole until the end of the week. That's when we'll get it. And we'll probably do another live stream on Wednesday-ish, and then maybe another one on Thursday, just to keep everybody up to date, because these things, particularly these low pressure cells and these OLR anomalies, they do move around and they change strength. And but we have two things that are correlating here, and the best takeaways from this video are going to be that at the end of the week, towards the middle of the week, we're going to start feeling a little bit of the coronal holes. Should see an increase in activity. We're already seeing clusters in the west coast of South America. I'd keep an eye on that area, Northern California off the coast, and then we mentioned Iceland and the Philippines for now. And we're going to update everybody later in the week when we get some more, when things change a little bit. But that's where we're at now. And again, sorry, the two major takeaways: large coronal hole, the forces of which we're going to be feeling the most of at the end of the week. And that's going to be coinciding with this Earth, Sun, Mercury planetary alignment right here. So we're going to have all the interplanetary magnetic fields being amplified by Mercury and the Sun interacting with Earth's IMFs. All the flux transfer events and coronal hole streams coming will be amplified a little bit because of this. And again, this is all culminating at the end of the week. I think that's it for now. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff if you want, if you think it's worth it. And if you guys have any comments or questions or anything, go ahead and leave them for me. I'll interact. And I think that's it for now. We'll do another live stream either tomorrow or Wednesday and get everybody updated on the latest watch period here that we're expecting to peak at the end of the week. That's it for now. Quake Weather out.